Gas remains the cleanest of fossil fuels and shall continue to play roles in a low-carbon world. Low-carbon world because in the new world we are looking at, there will be electric cars. Like from 2040 in France and in the UK, you cannot use an ICE car. You're going to use an electric car. I don't know what we'll be using in Nigeria then. Anyway, okay, we'll probably be using gas-fueled cars rather than petrol cars. So the question is Nigeria on course in driving development of the gas sector? Are we on course given all this development in this low carbon?
What are the issues here? What are the problems we envisage? We say people will rule off infrastructure, they will rule off a lot of other things. But for me, basically, do we have the right environment? Have we been able to set out the right environment for us to grow our gas? The answer is no. We started with oil, and I think the oil corrupted gas utilization in the sense that it's easy for you to pick up oil, put it in a container, and go and sell it. But with gas, you must have a dedicated user, and you must pipe it to that user. There must be a long-term arrangement between you and the user for it to make any sense. But what has happened here is that because we started with crude oil, we built all our policies, all our laws, all our regulations around oil. Then we now try to sit down and fit gas into that regulation, into those policies, and it has failed woefully. So what do we need now? When you rule out all the other issues, for me particularly, the most important are the policies that will guide gas utilization, infrastructure growth, and then trying to utilize gas for what we want to do with it. Look at, when we think in terms of using gas to power, we're having loads and loads of issues of utilizing our gas to generate electricity. One, you take a look at the infrastructure available even for electricity. We produce today about 5 megawatts. If you do anything more than 5 megawatts, you lose it to the atmosphere because the infrastructure is not even there for transmission and for distribution.
Nigeria has experienced severe delays in executing its 3 LNG projects. I mean, I have in mind here the Brass, OK LNG, and of course the LNG Train 7. I know about the LNG Train 7 because I was in LNG. The last plant was, I think, LNG Train 6. That was commissioned 2007. And we're in 2018, so in 11 years we've been planning and thinking of Train 7. In that time, around the world, whether it's in Australia or elsewhere, lots of LNG plants have sprung up, but not in Nigeria. So the natural question here is, there are indications that we are now resetting the buttons, or pressing the reset buttons, and what should we expect after pressing the reset button?
When we pitch in the gas policy that it's very important for us to develop a domestic market, but it's also equally important that we continue to have a very strong footing in the global game. You're correct that we have missed opportunities in the past, such that when the time came to move, we were not in the market, and we lost footing. And we got to a point now where LNG prices went south. But certainly now there's moves going on now to see if we can now develop the next train of the LNG project. Would have been nice if we had gotten the Brass LNG going, or we had gotten the OK LNG, because it would be good to just have, a mix of LNG projects. I keep telling people that, we have 4 major industrial parks located on the coast of the country. We have OK, we have Lekki, Ogidigben, Brass, but none of these parks are working. each and probably all of these parks could have been a location for an LNG project, given the size of our abundance, 198 TCF of gas. We're probably much, much, much more. So we could actually play the export game, right, as well as the domestic game conveniently. But when you strip the carpet, right, and look underneath, you'll understand that, we have been caught up in many different games. There's been game theory amongst our partners, the IOCs. There have been Nigerian big man issues around some of our upstream gas developments. There have been policy issues, our failure also to have legislation around gas over the last few years has affected these opportunities. But at least we're literally set to go, right, for the development of the next LNG train. So hopefully that's a start. But, and this is the problem, we now have competition. Competition first from America, which was our market. At some point, we lost our market. America is now becoming an exporter. So that market is gone. So now we now try to fight for the European market, and then also try to see how much we can get into the Asian market. But we're competing against very strong players like Australia, like Qatar. The Mozambicans are steering, so are other players. And also at the same time where so many other countries are also now discovering gas resources. And this is the power of technology. Technology allowing the geophysicists to see resources more clearer when they go about exploring. So this calls for urgent action as a nation. We've been too slow in getting things done. I feel pained that we're sitting on so much opportunity, so much resources, which we're not optimizing properly because of the system that we decided to run as a country.
That's definitely going to be a game changer post-2019, not post-Mayo, but post-2019 because of Dangote. Dangote refinery will be one of the biggest refineries in the world at 650,000 barrels a day. And of course, it has attached to it a fertilizer plant as well as petrochemical plant. And so it simply means that there will be awash with LPG. So those of you in the business, what are you going to do?
For us in the business, yes, there are some challenges which, and I hope that they will be able to come. Pricing currently it's even a bit cheaper to import gas into Nigeria than to get from LNG. That's a very key, and I think the Minister of Petroleum, Minister of State said he was going to do something about it, because it's very, very odd that a lot of gas is being fled in Nigeria, yet cooking gas is much more expensive than importing. It's just absurd. I don't understand that. So, and I think that something has to be done, and done very, very fast too, because the market is growing. Because if you look at a lot of the retail outlets all over Nigeria now, you could see skids all over the place. So the demand is growing, and if the demand is growing, the pricing has to be right, and the incentives has to be there for us in the business. Government has to support. So government has to put an enabling environment to enable even other investors to come in, because there is so much to do in that sector to grow the market.
We need enabling laws, because as far as I'm concerned, as far as I know, as far as it's done everywhere else, the private sector drives this. And the private sector should be allowed to drive it, but they must be given enabling environment. Good policies must be in place to enable them bring in their finances. There must be sanctity of contracts. Where there is no sanctity of contracts, there's a problem about bringing in finance to do anything. And the problem is that we need to respect agreements drawn. We need good policies that will drive it, and we need the locals to actually embrace it and then drive it. Once that is done, then we're halfway through our problems.